it was this little device that really got me shooting and really enjoying Olympus cameras for the first time, but obviously not how you might think. So this is the AstrHori M1 light meter. Basically, instead of one of those larger ones you see on film sets or film photographers using, this one is just kind of meant to go on like a little shoe mount somewhere, you know what I mean? So of course the intended use is going to be on your film SLR where you might have broken the light meter, the batteries might be hard to find, but we're going to talk about more uses than just that. When in a studio or location scouting for a video, narrative, music video, whatever, sometimes it's not super easy to figure out the exact light in the space, and I'm not the best at judging that either. So, of course you can use an app or something along those lines, but honestly, I've been bringing this thing around for me and just popping it on. I've got my native ISO set and just pointing it around and getting a pretty good idea of what the light is going to be like in a certain area. I also did get some really nice images using this on my OM1, just slotting it right on top and letting it go. This is the real OM1, by the way, from the 1970s, and this is a really cool camera if you're trying to get into film photography, and just kind of felt right because I don't think Panasonic has any film SLRs. As far as I know, the light meter inside this camera is pretty much busted, and I think the batteries are hard to find anyway. Even with batteries, I wouldn't 100% ever trust the light meter in this, so I used to pull out my phone every single time, get a light meter app, but it would just seriously break my flow, and I really didn't love it. So this little guy has been super fantastic replacement for that phone app. So anyway, let's go over some of the build quality and physical features really quickly. So the other version is made of aluminum, but this all black version apparently is all brass, and I think that's pretty cool. Brass is awesome, and I guess if you can weather it down yourself and make it look cool, but whatever. And if you watch till the end, I will be scraping this thing up with a file just to see how that looks, so stick around for that. First thing I want to note is that when you're putting this on, definitely put it on by the sides. Pushing it on the back where the button is, I don't know, I would just hate it for that button to get damaged, so that's one thing to keep an eye out for. It also comes with a little tool to adjust this left and right on your cold shoe or your hot shoe, whatever. But I didn't need to do that with this camera, obviously, but some cameras this would block the controls a little bit more, so that is nice that they left that option. The only two controls you really need to know about are the button on the back, which first off turns this thing on from its sleep mode, as well as switches between the different modes once it's awake, and the dial, which changes the settings in each of those modes. At the front here is where the light comes in. That's how you gather the light, and it's kind of an average of about 30 degrees. It's not really center weighted or anything, and that's just how it tends to work, so just keep that in mind. There's a USB-C on bottom for battery charging, but honestly, I haven't charged this thing ever, and I've done like 2 or 3 rolls, at least partially through this thing, so it lasts quite a while, but just keep an eye on the battery. So it's not the most intuitive control scheme ever, but it really is just double tapping the button or double tapping and holding down for different amounts of time. So if you just regular double tap, it's gonna go between aperture priority and shutter speed priority, calculating the other setting while you set the other one manually for what you want to do. Double clicking and holding down for 1.5 seconds switches to your ISO, which allows you to set that up, which is either digital or film, the first thing you're gonna wanna do right after you load the film or right after you get on set, and pretty much never touch it again to stay at base/box ISO. The next is a EV or like exposure compensation type setting. So you, again, double press, hold for 3 seconds, and you can change that up and down for exposure compensation. You can also lock the exposure reading if you're gonna come back to a certain location, just wanna remember your settings. And to do that, you're just gonna hold the button down one time and it'll put up this little icon and then turn that off. So when you have that like loopy arrow, that means it's actively reading your scene. This thing kind of falls asleep automatically after like, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It has like a range of seconds, and originally I kind of hated this, but you really do get used to just waking it up with a button press and then getting your settings dialed in, and then it just putting the camera back down and it falls asleep. So anyway, let's finally get to some results I shot with this exact setup the OM1, and this AstrHori M1 light meter. And to make it as hard as possible, I picked Harman Phoenix 200, the film stock with the least latitude ever. So yeah, I figured if this light meter can meter this super wacky experimental film stock correctly, then, well, it could probably meter just about anything. So I guess we'll just get on to some of the results. And a quick note on Phoenix, I do love it, but more than most film stocks, you really can't underexpose this film, and so the AstrHori is great, not just for figuring out the optimal settings, but also figuring out when not to shoot the shot at all. Film is kind of expensive to shoot, I don't know if you heard about this, so making sure you get the most out of every shot and you don't waste a frame when it's too dark is a really important skill, and not a skill that I really have, and so this light meter really helped me know how to get the best shot and when not to shoot the shot. So thanks for AstrHori for sending this out for me to check out, and thank you guys for watching. I know this is a slightly different style of video, but somehow they knew I love film photography, and any chance I get to talk about that stuff is really gonna be cool. I'm not gonna make a habit of it, but I do appreciate you guys stopping by for a film photography leaning video. I do think this could have a use on film sets if you just can't afford one of those crazy light meters you see that DPs, gaffers have a lot of times. I do just love setting this thing to like 2000 ISO, so like the GH6's native ISO, and figuring out what I need to do to bring the light up and down to make that work. So it actually is kind of handy, but obviously not the intended use for this thing. Anyway guys, thanks for stopping by, thanks for watching, and I'll see you when I see you. Oh yeah, the whole brass scratching off thing. So I got my multi-tool out, and maybe this is not the best way to do it, but I took my file to this thing for like 5 to 10 minutes, and honestly, I think it looks pretty cool, to be honest. I mean, it definitely looks like something I would have painted on like a Warhammer 40K figure or something, but hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think this black and brass look is pretty cool, and while I don't know if I recommend everybody do this, if you have a camera that fits this aesthetic, why not?
Whoops.